Hello everyone, this is the TheRandomEngineer. We are here today for some SolidWorks tutorials about sketches and feature drawing, and these are the basics series. Um, so let's jump right into it. So from now on, I'm gonna start doing things faster. I'm gonna use my hotkeys and stuff like that to go faster. I'll try to go as slow as possible, and explain everything I can as best as possible. So just bear with me, and if you have any questions or maybe I'm going too fast, just let me know. So right now I'm gonna hit Control N, which it's basically just a new document, and it's gonna go part, assembly, or drawing. I'm gonna go double click and say part. So last time we did some work with planes and sketches, so I'm gonna go into detail about the extruded feature. So right now I'm gonna activate my planes. Oh, they are already activated. So now I'm gonna see them by clicking Control on each and every one of them and go with Show. That's gonna show my planes, and I'm hitting the scroll button just to rotate my model. So I'm gonna go into the front plane and right click on my mouse, and I'll see now a wheel with features. If I go, this is customizable, by the way, so whenever you want to try something new, you can always customize it. I'll go in detail about this later. So you can go, well, I can go down left, and that's gonna allow me to go into sketch mode, which is the same as going to the sketch tab and clicking on sketch. So that's what I'm gonna do, and automatically I get a view from my front plane. So since I don't need that anymore, I'm just gonna hide it. So since we're not gonna do sketches today, I'm just gonna show you some other stuff that you can do. For example, let's say I want a 500 mil line. So I can go in my sketch mode, I can go left click my mouse and go up, and I'll see my smart dimension, which is the same as going to smart dimension. So that wheel can change if whether if you are in drawing mode, sketch mode, part mode, or assembly mode. So that always changes, and the more familiar you get with your own wheel, the more productive you will be. So I'll just say I want this to be 500, and this is gonna turn it into a construction geometry. In my hotkeys I go Control D, and it turns it into a construction geometry. So a construction geometry, it's basically any geometry that's for reference, but it's not taken into account while doing the features. In this case, I'm just gonna write my name. Well, that's what I'm gonna write, and you can see it's quite small because we have our line, which is 500 mil. If I want to edit the height and font style and font, I can always do it. So I'm just gonna choose whatever. In this case, I can set the heights to a certain dimension, or I can go to points, which are like sort of like a Word document, stuff like that. So if I know that's 500, probably 15 mil, it's big enough. We can always just say OK and see if it fits. If it doesn't, you can go higher, and you see we have something a little bit bigger. So for this, width factor is just going to stretch your letters, and you see whichever letter goes out of that line, it's going to be deleted automatically. And this is the spacing, so that's going to space out your letters, and pretty much it's going to be the same as the previous one. So let's just say 100. If you click on this, it's going to flip it vertical, going backwards, horizontal, and it's like a mirror horizontal. It's going to go all the way horizontally, and you can do like bold letters, italic, stuff like that. So yeah, that's, I'm gonna just choose a Comic Sans, and probably I'll just go shorter. That's still too big, so I'll go 30. Okay, and just click on the check to go into sketch mode again. I'm just gonna draw an ellipse in the center, and now notice I just hover over my line and automatically tells me which is the center point. Other thing I can do is right click the line and select the midpoint, and it's gonna automatically select it. But I always like just to hover over and it will tell you where it goes. So for this ellipse, it's just gonna ask you for the bigger radius and the smaller radius and the orientation, and you're set. So now you can see 4 points which describe this ellipse, and you can play with them as much as you want. You can also give them dimensions. So for example, I want to say from this point to this point horizontally there should be a 30 mil clearance, and same on the other side. And I'm gonna keep using my control key and select all these points and say these are horizontal, just to keep all the points in the same projection of the line. And for this one, for the horizontal, for the vertical points, I'm just gonna do something different. I'm gonna draw, well, first I'm gonna right click and select on the midpoint, select these 2 points, and you can see I have selected 3 points with my mouse. I go vertical, and that's gonna assure that these points, no matter what happens, are always going to be vertical. And since this is the middle point, these 2 points are going to be in the middle projected line of the helix. So right now, you could see how I did these 2 dimensions 30, but you don't really need to do that, because you can always draw lines and tell them they are equal. So I just hit my control key and select the 2 lines and go equal, and that's gonna make them equal. And you see there is a item conflict which tells me it's my helix is overdefined, and that's because I have already defined this as a helix, so there's no point in me going there's no point in me saying that this is the height from this line to this point is bigger than or smaller than the height from this line to this point. Otherwise, it wouldn't be an ellipse anymore. So that's why you have to take into account the shapes. I'm just gonna do this as a reference. So that this is where, for example, construction geometry comes into account. You can select the 2 lines, make them construction. Over here, no matter, you can make a circle, a construction line, just clicking and clicking on this icon, and you see how it's dotted now. That's a construction geometry. So since these 2 are equal by default by the definition of ellipse, you can just say you want a value here, and it's gonna make this line 82. So you can, if you click on the line or any geometry, it's going to tell you a summary of what it can tell you. So here it says 80 mil, and down here it's 80 mil as well. So if I delete this, you can see the difference between these two dimensions is that one is completely black and the other one is gray. That's because this one is it's called a driven, yeah, it's a driven dimension. That means this will change and this will update. Well, this is just drive dimensions. That means if I change this, this space is going to change. So let's say I want to change it to 65. You see how the oval updates, and this automatically updates because this is a driven dimension. So that means it's just going to update and show you, but it's not going to define any geometry. So you might as well just erase it. That's going to prevent you from over defining the drawing or sketch, and this comes into play whenever you're doing assemblies and parts with some interferences and errors. You may have over defined geometry. So if you want to edit this these words, you can double click it, and you can say you want this to be thicker or stuff like that. I'm just making it thicker so it sort of starts in the center. And now I'm gonna offset the entities. That means it's gonna, it's better if I show you. Let's say 150 here, and you see how it's offset to the outside. You can go reverse, and it's gonna go into the inside if it's doable. For example, if I go 100, I can go 100 out of that of the ring, but I cannot go 100 in because it's not going to be an ellipse whenever it makes it reversed. So just to show it, I'll go 20, and you see how the preview of the ellipse starts looking different, like is different than a ellipse. So if I go more and more and more, it's just gonna lose its shape, and it won't allow you to do it because it's not a ellipse anymore. So yeah, let's go 50 on the outside. So right now I haven't clicked anything, and you can see on the screen that you have a yellow arrow pointing outwards or inwards whenever I hover my mouse. So if I hover in the inner side of the ellipse or the geometry, it's gonna do it on the inside. And if I hover over the outside of the geometry, it's gonna go on the outside. So right now I'm just gonna do it on the outside. And you see how automatically it is defined? That's basically because it has created a 10 mil difference between the offset. You can always change that as much as you want. So let's go to 50 because that's what we originally did. And that's it. It's quite difficult to define letters if at all possible. But usually I just put it like that and it's gonna be good enough. So right now I'm gonna exit my sketch, which is a fairly simple sketch, and we're gonna go into the extrude feature. So the extrude feature is basically adding material to a solid. You can think of it as adding a piece of clay. So if you want to have another shape, you can add more clay and stuff like that. Obviously with a more advanced geometry generation. But let's say you have a sketch and you wanna add material to it. So if I go extrude but sketch, if you take a little bit time and read it, it tells you select a plane to which to sketch to, no, sorry, select a plane on which to sketch the feature cross section or an existing sketch to use for feature. So this is telling you you have to select a plane or an existing sketch. So if you select a plane, it's going to ask you to draw again. So you can, let's say, click the right plane, and it's going to allow you to draw more stuff again on that right plane. And that's not what we wanted, because we already have our defined geometry. So we can exit the sketch, and since we clicked on the extruded feature, it's going to recognize that geometry that we just drew, and it's going to ask us to do something with the feature, but we don't want that, so let's just exit it, and we have two sketches now. Sketch number 1, sketch number 2. If you have maybe too many sketches, you can always click them with the left button and hide it, so you can only see what you want to see. And if you don't want to see any sketches at all, you can always go into your view tab and select view sketches, and you can hide them or show them as you please. So in this case, since we only have sketches, I'm just going to show them. And if you want, I don't need this, so I'm going to delete it and say suppress or delete, and it's gonna erase it forever. You can, if you suppress or delete something by mistake, you can do Control-Z, and it's gonna delete it. So now that we have our existing sketch, let's just go extrude, and it's gonna ask us for a plane or extrusion or an existing drawing, existing sketch, and we can always click on this part or on this little arrow, and it's gonna show us everything we just created. Or we can go back in the feature manager design tree and click on the sketch. And yeah. So now it's going to take a little bit of time to identify that geometry. And this is your boss extrude feature property manager. This is where you define what the feature is going to do, or what contours it's going to take into account, or stuff like that. So last week, or the previous episode, I showed you some preview of this. Select contours. You have plenty of contours here, so you can select each and every one of those if it lets me at all. Yeah, so right here, for example, let's say you want to extrude this for 3 mil, and say OK. It's gonna do it. And let's hide that sketch with the hide button, and you will only see this. Now, as you see, if I click on this, it's gonna show me a preview of the sketch. If I show it, it's gonna show the sketch, and if I click it while the sketch is shown, it's gonna pretty much do the same as previous sketch. So now we already drew this, so we don't want to draw it again. You can always re-click the sketch and do the extrusion feature again, and it's going to allow you to do the same. Alright, so right now I'm trying to get the words, but for some reason it's not letting me. Okay, I'm gonna edit this sketch. You can click the sketch And if it's not shown, you can click on this little arrow here, click the sketch, edit sketch. I'm gonna make this a construction geometry just to see why it's not letting me do anything with the words. But right now it's telling me there's a warning because as you saw before, I selected these two lines, these two contours for the feature, and since I made it for construction, it's like they are not there at all for the feature. So SolidWorks is trying to create a geometry where it doesn't have any entities to extrude, and that's why it's giving me the warning. I'm just gonna say exit sketch and rebuild anyway, and you see there's an error. You can go edit feature just by clicking on the feature, and you see that selected contours are not there, so you pretty much have to show it there. And for some reason it's still not letting me do it, so I'm gonna edit the sketch, delete this stuff because I've got no idea what's going on really, and try to do it again. Okay, extrude. Oh, sorry. I'm gonna delete this again. Select the sketch, select extrude, and now it's letting me do it. For some strange reason, it didn't let me before. But this is good because I can probably show you how to troubleshoot some of the errors that you may have. And I've seen this happen before with some new users. They don't understand what's going on and they get frustrated. So that's some troubleshooting for you. I'm gonna go 20 right here, and we get our geometry. I'm going to hide the sketch, and we have our 3D geometry, which is this. So we're not done yet with the with the extrude feature. Now this is something that I wanna point out. You can have multiple bodies inside a part. This means you may have a part with different bodies in the space, but that doesn't mean it's going to be assembly. So make sure you remember that in the future. You know if you have a multi-body part when this shows up by itself. It says solid bodies. You can click on this and it's going to show you each and every one of the bodies that you have. And that basically means that all the bodies are present in the part but are not connected together. So that's why they are separate bodies and recognized as a body by itself. So if you have this, you shouldn't worry unless you go, unless you really want to have something as a one body part. And if you want to have it together, you just have to make sure that they are all together. So that's what we're going to do now. I didn't explain this feature as good, but I'll make sure I do it in the next sketch. So right now we still have the same planes, and we will always have these planes. No matter what we do, we can create new planes or delete planes, but we'll never be able to change these planes because these are the original origin and reference planes and geometry. So if you see it from the side and I click on front plane, it's going to highlight my plane, and you see the feature is from the plane towards me. If I look it from the front, it's towards me. So you can select some other geometry to sketch on. For example, if I wanted to create a sketch on this plane, which is the front of that face, you can do it, or you can select some other planar face and it will let you sketch for example, this is just a plane. So, and even though it's completely defined, you can select it as a reference for a new sketch. You won't be able to sketch on, to do a 2D sketch on the surface, because obviously you need a 2D surface to do a 2D sketch. You can draw on the surface, but that's something with more advanced knowledge of SolidWorks. So right now I'm just gonna go into my front plane, draw my sketch, and this gives me the opportunity to show other sketch feature. So right now, remember, you can hide and show sketches. Okay, I'm gonna show this sketch, and you can see the sketch is on the front plane, and the extrusion is towards the front, towards the screen. So that's everything that we've done until now. So I want to go into my front plane, so I'm going to click on the space bar. You probably see me doing different stuff to show to have the same result, just so I show you what you can do, and don't be afraid to ask what I'm doing if I'm going too fast. So yeah, I'm sketching. I'm in sketch mode because I've got these symbols right here. I know I'm in sketch mode, and I can click on the sketches that I've done before just by clicking on them. And let's say I click on this, and I will convert any of these. This basically does a projection of whatever geometry you select onto the plane. So I'm on the front plane, and I'm gonna project the line into that plane, which is basically just gonna be the same line. And voila, it gives me the same line. So now I'm just gonna make it for construction again, because this is just a reference, and I'm gonna draw the same stuff that I did before without the error. So yeah, I just did Control Z to go back because I wanted to make it bigger. And you didn't really need to do that. This is just some other way of doing it. So let's say you made a mistake and you clicked something you didn't want to, and this is where your relationships come into account. Remember, I told you last episode about sketch relationships. This relationship means it's projected, it's converted, and this is just a coincidence. So that's that. So I made this point coincident with the other point, and that's just going to allow me to move these points. So if I want to move these ones, I can click on that relationship and delete them, and I can change it again, as you see. So right now I have this middle point that's movable, and I have this geometry that can change. So as you know, I converted to these entities, and it's allowing me to move it because I deleted the coincident relationship. So I'm just gonna delete all the relationships now, but the projection, just so you see what's the difference between some relationships and stuff like that. So right now, for example, I just deleted this relationship, and you can see how the lines and the ellipse and the whole sketch is all over the place. So I'm just gonna drag this point onto the origin. It's gonna tell me coincident relationship, and same with the other line. It's gonna be a coincident, and I'm gonna drag the midpoint of the helix and drag into the midpoint of the line, and it's gonna tell me its middle point by the look of that yellow relationship. And I'm gonna do the same as we did last time. We're gonna select those points and make them horizontal. I'm gonna select these points and make them vertical. You don't have to go all the way to your left. You can always just go up here and it will show you some easy stuff that you can do without having to go into too much trouble and move your mouse a couple of centimeters away. So now you can see how all your screen starts to populate with these green squares. And sometimes when you have a lot of geometry, you don't want to see all that. So you can hide them here. And if you select on a geometry, it's going to show you the references, the relationships that it has, but not everything. So that's helpful. So we're going to do the same as last time. I think we went 30. We went here. Let's just give it 150. Just a nice round number. I'm going to go to offset entities. Go 50. Click on the outside of the ring. You can see how it changes the arrow, but I'm going to go on the outside. And that's my previous geometry again. So now I just went out of my sketch and I have two sketches, which are named sketch 1 and sketch 3. So I'm going to hide the sketch 1. It's just going to show the sketch 3. And it's going to keep my feature, obviously. So right now, remember I have my bodies, 18 bodies, because we have 18 letters. You want to count them, that's fine. And so I want to stick them all together. I'm going to go sketch, features, extrude feature, and here I can finally show you what's something about contours. So if I click on the inner side of the circle, it's going to allow me to click on the if I click on the inner side, it's going to take into account the inner side. If I click on the outer side, it's going to take into account the outer side. And if I click on the inner and outer, it's going to take into account everything. So yeah, let's just say we want the inner side just for now. And you can define here how big you want this. And you can drag this too. And for example, if I go something stupid like a 340, I go check. You see, I have only one solid, and as I told you before, it's like adding clay. So even if you had really nice clay letters, if you put a big piece of clay, it's just the letters are gonna be erased forever. So that's what happened here. I'm just gonna tell you it's only one big solid. But no worries, I can go back, Control Z, or just edit feature, and you see you have the letters back again. So I'm gonna go 20 again, but I'm gonna change the direction. So from the front plane where the sketch is to the back, and it's gonna tell you we have only one solid because all these letters are now stuck together by the same feature. And that's one of the things you can do whenever you have multiple bodies. You can just add some link within them and you'll have a solid body. So now we have that, and then I'm gonna select the same sketch as sketch 3 that we did before. Select extrude and select the contours, right click and delete, or clear selection if you have a lot. And I'm gonna select on the outer ring. I'm gonna go let's say 20 again. I'm gonna go to my right plane. You see I have my wheel, and go wheel and right, and it's gonna give me the right view. Go OK, and you have that shape. So it's basically adding and removing, adding material. Whatever you do, it's just adding material. If you want to remove material, you have other features like extrude cut, but for now we are just focusing on extrude. So let's say you want something more complex. Okay, you can. I'm just going to choose the same sketch, same extrusion, and right here you can, if you take a little bit of time and read through this, you can see this is from direction 1, direction 2, trim feature, selected contours or feature. I'll show you this later. And so we have that sketch. I'm going to show it. I've shown already. Never mind. And let's say you want to have this same sketch, but some other place, like an offset. You can go from offset and say how much you want it offset. Let's say you wanted 100 mil offset, and you can select the contours again. And you see you have a preview of what you're gonna get. And so that's 100 millimeters away from the original plane to that direction. If you're gonna go the other way, you can go on these arrows. So you're 100 mil away, and you want 50 mil thickness for this in this result. So I'm just gonna go to the back, and I'm just gonna go 200 here, just to see a little bit more difference, and click OK. So now I have two bodies. Oh, sorry, three bodies. 1, 2, 3. So you see you have one same sketch. I'm just gonna hide this sketch. Oh, sorry. I'm gonna show this sketch. Oh no, it was sketch 3. Okay. So you have one sketch, and you can see you can do different geometries with one sketch on different places. So that's the power of an extrusion. So now I'm gonna do, let's say, okay, I'm gonna click on the sketch and go extrude, and say I want the sketch to start from a surface, face, or plane, which is going to be this surface, face, or plane, and I'm going to go up to another surface, which is going to be this one. And if I go to my right view, you can see the feature extends up to the next face, and just going to click OK, and that's my result. Yeah. So now you have a feature of the scope. That means what's gonna affect, what the feature is gonna affect. So merge result means merge itself, combine, put together, stick, some other synonyms of it. If you unclick it, it's gonna create the body, but it's not gonna stick it to anything. If you click merge, it's gonna stick it to something that you can select, or let the software auto select it for you. So if you go auto select, it's gonna select whatever is touching, and if you unclick it, you can select the bodies that you want it to be stuck to. So right now I just stuck it to everything, and it's just gonna do that. Say you can always go all bodies too, to try to stick it to all the bodies. And this is some other result that we've got. Okay, so I'm just gonna click on this and go edit feature. Remember we did from this surface up to the next surface. One of the good things about this is that it doesn't matter how far you move this body, it's always gonna start from the face you selected, and it's gonna go to the other face you selected. So let's say this is the feature we created, and if you double click it, it's going to tell you the dimensions that are affecting it. Black dimensions are sketches and blue dimensions are features. So if you select, let's say, the separation of the body of the plane to the the offsetted body, you can change it to, let's say, 500. If something doesn't update automatically, just make sure you click on rebuild or go Control B, shown there, and you see how the feature number 6 automatically updated. That's because we said you always, no matter what happens, you always have to start from that phase and have to finish on this phase. The difference between the fourth feature was this, right? So if we go 50 and update, for the feature 4 we said we want a 50. Oh, sorry, for the feature 4, yeah, we said 50. Oh yeah, so that's the thickness. So that's gonna change the thickness of the material. Sorry, I thought it was gonna be something else. Okay, so rebuild, and that changes it back again. Let's put it to its original shape. And okay, I'm gonna edit this middle feature and say, let's say I didn't want this to be up to the next surface. I'm just gonna say it blind and say 10, right? So you see now this is always going to be 10. Double click the feature and it's always going to be 10. And no matter what I do with the second feature, it's not going to be greater or less than 10. If you want stuff to automatically update, you can click on Instant 3D, and that's going to allow you to change dimensions automatically. So click on Instant 3D and double click, and you will see the difference now. You see the dimensions, but you don't see any spheres. If you click on that, double click, and you see spheres. So that if you click on the sphere and drag, it's gonna update automatically, and it has a ruler, and it's gonna tell you the actual dimension that you're having. And if you go closer to the ruler, it's gonna let you choose between those values. So right now I said 600 millimeters offset and 50 thickness for that back solid. And if I double click on that oval, it says here there's 10, and let's say I want 110. And you see you can see there what's the difference between this up to next feature and just a blind dimension. So here we have more options. You can go up to vertex. That's just going to tell you have to go as far as a point. So let's find a point here. Yeah, we found the point. So you see how the feature goes all the way up to that point. And if that point changes, it's going to update automatically. Offset from surface is almost the same as up to surface, but with an offset, obviously. So we want a 10 mil always. We want always to have a 10 mil clearance between that offset face and the solid itself. So if I double click on this dimension, I will edit this. Well, not that one, but this one. And you see, no matter how long I make it or how thick I make it, that's always going to be 10 mil apart from that face. So that's that feature. And we can go up to body, which is going to tell you which is going to allow you to select a body, and it's going to go up to that body, and it should allow you to up to body from, okay, let's say somebody. Okay, so we just selected that body. The other one was too complex, and maybe I did something different, but for this presentation, I'll just show you that. So that's up to body, and it's gonna do that. And now for the last one, it says midplane. So remember, we had a plane in our sketch. That's gonna be the center of whatever we did, and it's gonna extrude it on both sides equally. So now I'll go edit feature, and that's only for the direction 1. So let's say you want a second direction. You probably have the same options as the other feature. So the only difference is that's going on the opposite direction. So I want, let's say, 300 on this side and 10 on the outside. So that's going to go from the original sketch plane to 300 to one direction and 10 mil on the opposite direction. If I want to change that, I can always click on that arrow there. I'm just going to do it. So for the purpose of this this feature, I only have one thing left. So I'm gonna close it and make a new part. This is more different stuff, so I'm just gonna go top plane, sketch. I'm gonna do a circle, and I'm gonna give it a dimension of 150, and say exit sketch, and select the sketch and extrude. So I want a 150 mil cylinder, and you can see here you have a draft on off. That's gonna let you do a draft. So that's gonna change the angle of the draft, and you can go upwards or inwards. So that's one solid, right? I'm gonna go in the same top plane. I'm gonna draw another sketch, but this time it's going to be, oh, I just did Control 8, and that's normal too. And since I'm drawing on the top plane, I go normal to the top plane, which is that view. So you can see this. I go down and I have a rectangle. I'm gonna draw a line from here to the center. You see how I hover over the line, it's gonna tell me the center point. I make this line horizontal and for construction, and a dimension of 250. And I'm just gonna give it some other dimensions for this 70. Okay, so sketch, feature, extrude. Gonna give it the same height with no draft this time, and yeah, that's it. So I'm gonna for the final part of this feature, I'm gonna show you the difference between up to next and up to body. So now remember I told you you can draw on different planes, not necessarily these same planes. So right now I only have 3 planes, 3 surfaces. I'm gonna show them right here, just so you can have a view of what's going on. But I want to draw on this side now. So since I have this 2D plane here, I can always select it and go the sketch or sketch or sketch. And that's just going to allow me to draw on that plane. And you can see it because the origin of that face is here. So I'm gonna just hide these main planes and go Control 8, and that's gonna allow me to draw on that plane, which is this one, but we have this solid here, so it's not gonna let me see it. So I can hide this solid or show it, obviously. And since these two are separate bodies, separate solids, you can select each and every one of the solid and hide them, and you see there's no issues there. So I'm gonna draw something complex here with a spline tool, and that's obviously not going to be a circle or an ellipse, or don't worry about this. This is just some strange shape. I'm just drawing stuff, so I'll go into splines later. So if I go 3D, you can see my sketch is on that plane. If I go out of sketch and show the other body, you can see this sketch is there. So like I said, you can sketch, extrude, and say up to next. And if I go up to next, you can see how that that shape just goes right into that body, and it connects it no matter what. So that's up to next. We're gonna get the same, probably the same result with up to body, which is this body, and we get the same result pretty much. If we do up to point, oh sorry, up to vertex, I don't know if it's gonna, we don't have vertices here, so I don't know if we'll be able to see it. Let's go up to, okay, let's go up to surface. Up to surface, it's gonna project that sketch onto the surface, so you can see the end result. So these all look pretty much the same because of the shape we've got. But if I go offset from surface, you will be able to, just gonna go 10, and you can see, I'm just gonna go OK. And since we have projected that sketch onto that surface, you can see the end shape of this is not a complete shape, right? It looks like a complex surface. It's because this shape, which is that, is got projected to that surface, and it's taken back 10 mil away. So you see that end result. As the difference is, if we do blind, you can see the end result being all flat and nice. And we look at from the front, it's all nice. So just to show you that one before, I'm gonna go offset from surface, doesn't matter how much, and you see the end result is a complex surface. So that's gonna do it for today's episode. I hope you liked it, and we'll go into more detail about some other adding material features that we will find here. If something was not clear, or you think I could explain it a little bit better, you can just tell me in the comments, or let me know right now on my Twitch account. And yeah, I hope you guys liked it. I'm gonna upload it into YouTube in a little bit, and I hope to see you guys next time. See you later.